Hi ladies, today we are going to have an important little chit chat about your pelvic floor because I care about your long-term health and this matters to you whether you are immediately postpartum or whether you're years postpartum and this is your third baby and you're just now starting my 12-week post-pregnancy plan in order to restore your core, how it's functioning, how intact it is, as well as the pelvic floor. Whether you delivered via C-section or vaginal delivery, this applies to you because the fact is that you carried a baby for 8, 9, 10 months, some of us who carry long, and the weight of a bowling ball plus the placenta weight and the fluids were all pushing down with the force of gravity against our pelvic floor, which can cause a little damage that we are here to discuss and potentially go into treatment to repair. For women who have had a C-section, you might think, oh, I delivered by a C-section, like not a lot of problems with my pelvic floor, but a common problem that women don't realize comes up is that at the C-section site, it can be kind of numb. And so with your skin, layers of skin, that's normal. It's especially normal in the first 8 weeks postpartum and kind of healthy because it makes your muscles stop responding so that they can just focus on cellular recovery and restore that area. But it becomes a problem when it's prolonged, when you're 3, 4 months plus postpartum and your muscles are kind of in a state of amnesia. They're sleepy, they're turned off, they're not activating, and this can either result in a very weak and lengthened pelvic floor or can result in a really tight and hypertonic and short pelvic floor. Either end of the spectrum is going to lead to problems and incontinence, which is peeing your pants. Super common, nothing to be ashamed of postpartum, but if you are still having issues with incontinence and you're past 5, 6 weeks postpartum, it's kind of normal in those first few weeks because a lot of damage was done, right? It's traumatic. Childbirth is a lot. But if it persists past 6 weeks, that can be addressed and is not something you have to live with. So I'm going to talk about the blanket approach that a lot of doctors still recommend. My postpartum doctor recommended this time, but he is not specializing in pelvic floor health. He's not a women's health pelvic floor physical therapist, which is who I recommend you to go see. I am not a physical therapist, but if any of these things that I talk about ring a red flag, it's telling you, hey, I need a referral to go get help and be seen in person. So he recommended kegels, do lots of kegels all day long. But I had already known from my training that you shouldn't be doing too many kegels or that can cause an overly tight pelvic floor. It's true that most women who deliver a baby will have a lengthened pelvic floor that can be really weak and have trouble contracting at the right times. It's not typical to see women with a low tone pelvic floor to have pain, but it is common that you're having leaks and just maybe a little less sensation during intercourse. And for women in this category with low tone pelvic floor, kegels can be really, really helpful and actually instrumental in reconnecting your pelvic floor muscles, which are like a long hammock, to your transverse abdominis muscles, which connect to the pubic bone all the way around you like a girdle, and up to your ribs to make sure that everything is more intact and not just hanging out all the time. So during the 12-week post-pregnancy plan, if you know that you have a weak pelvic floor, like that was me each time postpartum, my first time postpartum, I didn't know what I was doing though, and so I struggled with it longer. But if you have a weak pelvic floor, you want to follow the guidance of the American College of Gynecology and Obstetricians. And they recommend doing your kegels in sets of 10, 3 times total per day. So that means throughout the whole day, a total of 30 kegels. And the purpose is to do nice, long, slow, and controlled kegels during your own time. My favorite time to do this as a mom is when I'm breastfeeding or feeding my baby because you're already sitting there. It gets you off your phone, more intent with your baby and really thinking about drawing up, up, and up. So imagine a straw. And I like to do this in a seated position. At first on a stability ball, like when I'm immediately postpartum because I can't feel at all what's going on down there. Like motor neurons from my brain are trying to send signals to the pelvic floor and they're just like, I'm not sure if I'm turning on, I'm not sure if I'm clenching. So you can actually sit on a ball or actually put your hand down there and feel the sensation, the drawing in and up sensation, and visualizing. You can draw in and up along your vaginal canal as if you're sucking a tampon in and up. We're gonna hold right there. And the goal is to achieve a 10-second hold. I can't get to a 10-second hold till I'm like 5 months postpartum, but that is the goal. I want you to work up to it, and so then after you get to that full hold, you hold as long as you can, up to 10 seconds. I want you to completely relax and release. So just give yourself a few seconds to be like, yep, I'm completely relaxed, because we don't want to be doing like a bicep curl and try to be contract, 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 not fully relaxed, contract, contract. That can cause problems of having an over tight pelvic floor, which is the other end of the spectrum. So over there is the low tone pelvic floor. The other end of pelvic floor dysfunction is a high tone pelvic floor, also known as a hypertonic pelvic floor. These muscles are typically going to be shortened and overly tight, contracting, sometimes even described as spasming. They don't know when to chill out, they don't know when to relax, and this can be equally as problematic. Similar symptom that you'll see is leaking, incontinence, and then a symptom that is more unique to a hypertonic pelvic floor is having pain during intercourse, and also symptomatic of having pain in the pelvic area, your hips, and low back. And that's typically because when the pelvic floor muscles, which are like a hammock, are cinched up, it's going to affect our posture, possibly cause a posterior pelvic tilt or an anterior pelvic tilt. If your back is really tight, it can just cause problems with your posture and cause pain. With a hypertonic, high-tone pelvic floor, stay far away from kegels. Like, this will do worse for your pelvic floor. It is already too tight, it's already too contracting. We need to teach it how to relax. Don't worry, there is help for you. You can do biofeedback therapy in person, which will be extremely helpful at relearning, helping you identify, when am I fully contracted? How do I relax? You might need an internal massage if you have scar tissue that you might not even be aware of, to help reduce that so your muscles can return to a more lengthened and strong state, not a short and tightened state. So I am not afraid for you, whether you have a hypertonic pelvic floor or a low tone pelvic floor. Either way, there is treatment available, and I encourage you to seek help, because you don't need to live with this. And I want you to be successful on the 12-week post-pregnancy plan and beyond. So if you are in doubt, I would much rather you hold off starting the 12-week post-pregnancy plan for a little bit. Get an in-person referral to make sure that you know what's going on with your pelvic floor, show your body some love and the respect that it needs in this healing process, and then move forward with confidence, knowing that, it's so cute, knowing that what you're doing is right for your long-term recovery as a mom. And then one last little nugget. This is kind of like an Ashley Kellerism, and it is what has worked for me. I did not do this my first time postpartum with Gavin, but I did do it with Eva and Riker, and my pelvic floor and abs recovered faster. So it's something I want to share with you. With my kegels, I do the 3 sets a day because I've typically had a weak pelvic floor each time postpartum. Just it's what happens to me, big babies, right? My 3rd set of kegels, I do them a little different. It's not just the straw pulling up, up, and up, or you can imagine an elevator like I described, going up, 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 and hold. I actually pull my abs into work as well. So picture from your navel all the way to your pelvic floor being a little bit of a rope. And there's a ratchet strap where you're pulling up from your pelvic floor and then pulling in at your navel. So it's cinch, 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 it's pulling in. So I think about drawing the abdominals in. It's slightly tilting the pelvis, but hardly. You can just hardly see it. And then at the same time, I'm pulling up, up, and up. And as you do this, you're doing an exhale. So big inhale in, fill your belly up, and then now I breathe kind of loudly just to give emphasis. In my real life, like, no one's gonna hear me breathing. It's just kind of a quiet, like, I'm inhaling and exhaling slowly. And I do those for 10 repetitions. And so that we can get the best results on the 12-week post-pregnancy plan with your abs taking a full body approach, not just the pelvic floor approach, not just an abs approach, but full body, arms, legs, butt, everything, because never in real life will your abs just need to be turned on their own, or your pelvic floor on their own. We work together functionally in order to be active women who can do everything with our kids and have no restrictions in range of motion, ultimately, because we can work as one single healthy unit. So I hope this educates you a little bit, and if you are in doubt, get an in-person referral for a women's health pelvic floor physical therapist.